Rep the South Side whenever you pay with your White Sox debit card from Wintrust Community Banks and score perks like free ATMs, no monthly fees, and a $300 opening bonus. Pay with pride every time with Wintrust, Chicago's bank.
Hey everyone, it's Chuck Garfien. This is the White Sox Podcast, brought to you, as always, by Wintrust, Chicago's bank. Show your team pride with the White Sox debit card. Get yours at wintrust.com/Sox. Member FDIC, EHL lender. All right, the White Sox, they're playing better baseball, especially on the road. This team on the road last year and a half, 2 years, not good. They're not only playing better on the road, they're just a better team, a much better team. I'm seeing it on the field. I'm hearing it from White Sox fans for the last, 6 weeks. And I wanted to talk to someone who is in Tampa, on the ground, with the team, who's been there during the second half of the season, because ever since the All-Star break, we are seeing a better team on the field. And who is there? Brooke Fletcher, CHSN White Sox field reporter. She joins me here on the podcast to talk about what she is seeing, what she is feeling about this team and how they're playing, and the camaraderie that is occurring, why they're playing better baseball, and much more. So it's Brooke Fletcher joining me on the podcast. Let's do it. All right, joining us from steamy Tampa, Florida. I can't think of anywhere better to be in late July than Tampa, Florida. Brooke Fletcher, how you doing?
I'm good, Chuck. How are you?
I'm good. Once upon a time, like last year, the White Sox, the Rays played in Tropicana Field, and it's not even baseball in there, but you are braving the elements of Florida summer outside in Steinbrenner Field. What's that been like?
Yeah. Well, can you tell there's humidity with my hair? I'm just, instead of fighting against it, Chuck, I am embracing it. But there is a reason why the Rays have played in a dome for all of these years. Outside, it's the humidity and just adding to the heat. It's just, the kind of the perfect storm. And so that's why all of our games have been pushed back. Also, we've been very lucky. I'm trying to look out my window to see if there's any rain clouds. We've been very lucky with rain. Let's hope that we don't have any rain tonight. But yeah, the elements have definitely been a factor. Sean Burke and Davis Martin talked about that just with gripping the ball. So it's just something that these guys are having to overcome in this series and just kind of fight through.
So what has been the key, would you say, to the White Sox turnaround in the All-Star break? Is it the meeting and message that Will Venable had for the team, or is it Dan Plesac's White Sox white polo shirt?
I know. I was hoping the polo had a little bit more magic last night, right? But I think you can, you got the Riley polo. I think that adds to it. I think it's been fun just to, follow along with that. But, I think 162 games, it's a long season. I think we both know one thing with baseball is sometimes you can be the coldest team in the league, and then it can just turn just like that. And I think the All-Star break was a huge mental and physical reset for this group, just to kind of take a step back and just, look at the big picture and be like, okay, how can we approach this second half differently? And Will Venable talked about that. He said, the message hasn't changed. It's just the tone. So that's something they've changed their approach and just trying to get through to these guys. They emphasize stay on the heater, and the guys have done a better job just staying on those fastballs, something that they have, struggled with so far this season, but they've really turned things around, especially after this All-Star break. So I think it's just a combination of things. Colson talked about, there's no selfish guys in this group. And I think we've always seen that, Chuck, we've been in the clubhouse, but guys are playing for each other. And I think you could just see the energy shift in the dugout just over the last few games. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah. One thing I noticed with Chase was, he'll never come out and say I'm banged up or anything like that. But I think he was worn out before the All-Star break. And I see a renewed energy with him he's obviously hitting better. I think the break came at a good time for him. Is that what you see?
Yeah, I agree. And I talked to him about that. I just feel like, he's seeing the ball better after the break. And he just said, the break was a great mental reset. But Chase is always going to be that guy, whether if he's not performing at the plate, he's always going to try to find other ways to contribute and to help this team. And that's what he was doing. But, Will never full on came out and said, hey, this guy, yeah, he's grinding out here. But you like you said, you could just see it. So I think that break was really good for him, and just to kind of take a step back. And he's been a huge contributor. You saw it other night with that career high 4-hit game.
So last year, when I would see White Sox fans over the winter and certainly the start of this season, when I would see White Sox fans, or they would see me and we'd talk about the team, I would see a fan base that was upset, that was defeated, that was humiliated, and they were just pissed off. Okay. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I'll just speak for myself that I see the light back in the eyes for White Sox fans. I just am seeing that. Yes, we do not like that they're in last place. Neither do all White Sox fans, but I'm just going off of like the last 10 days. Well, I was in London actually, so it wasn't not 10 days. I didn't see any White Sox. I saw a couple of White Sox.
Yeah, we have to catch up about your trip.
But I'll just say like the last month and a half. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
When I see White Sox fans now, they see the hope is back. The ones who are paying attention, and there are a lot of them are, and if you're listening to this podcast, you definitely are paying attention. I see and feel a difference. And I'm seeing and feeling a difference on the field. Is that what you're kind of experiencing as well?
Yeah, this road trip has been so much fun, not just because they're winning, but maybe because they're winning. Like the White Sox fans are showing up and showing out. Like you're hearing "Let's go White Sox" chants in the stands when we're in Tampa, and I have fans coming up to me. They got like the White Sox chain going on. You have a poster with the rally polo. Like you're starting to see this fandom come together, and it's just been, you can tell the guys are feeding off of that. Again, like I said, I'm sitting there and I'm watching them in the dugout, and just the energy that they have. It's just, you can tell that they've always felt like a team, but you can tell that they're like, oh, like we're kind of those dudes, like look what we can do, we can win, and there's an expectation there. And it's just crazy how just a stretch, right? Just a stretch of wins, and how that can just change the camaraderie and the chemistry in a clubhouse.
Even ESPN of all things is getting behind the White Sox in a way that I wasn't expecting. I looked at the recap of ESPN's game after Tuesday's loss to the Rays. Okay. The headline said the Rays snapped the White Sox 5-game winning streak. 5-game winning streak. It was a 4-game winning streak. Yeah. ESPN says, like, oh my God, look at the White Sox. Look at this team. They've won 5 in a row and then they lost. No, it was 4. So I don't know. It was a little inflated. Right. It was funny that they made it. We all make mistakes, but it was just funny that ESPN would do something on the opposite of what we've seen from them in the past.
Well, and it's funny, like, now, national markets, they're starting to shine a light on the White Sox, but we've always talked about this, like what you see in the box score and what you see in the stats and stuff like that doesn't reflect like what this team has been doing. They've been in so many close games, and it's like, no, we know this team is about to turn a corner. It's just a matter of time. Like this team the record does not reflect how good this team is. So it's just kind of funny that, we go on this stretch here and then the national markets are like, oh, the White Sox, like they're good. It's like, no, we've been here. It's just now we're like just knocking down the door. So it's been really cool just to see like this momentum. Hopefully, we can take the series here tonight. That'd be huge.
Yeah. We are taping this before the finale. So when you're listening to this or when you're watching it, there's a chance that maybe, just maybe, 𝗻𝗓cie Robert Jr. hit 3 home runs. Or maybe Colson Montgomery hit for the cycle and we're just not mentioning it. Or they lost the game and we're not mentioning it. But just keep that in mind, everybody. Let's talk about Colson Montgomery. Hits his first major league home run. You talked to him after the game. What's he been like? What are you noticing from him? And what did that mean to him hitting that first homer in the majors?
Well, I think with him, just the confidence has always been there. And, we saw it at spring training, Chuck. But he just seems so sure of himself defensively. They're asking a lot of him, to come up, and he's playing short, but then he's been playing third, and, just it's tough enough just adjusting to, getting to the big leagues, but then also moving positions around and also performing at the plate. He's had a lot of great quality at bats, working the counts, and, he's walked, and he had that homer last night. He said he had a feeling like it was out, but I think his thing is, just taking the focus off of himself and just thinking about how can I help this team and put the guy behind me in a better spot than where we were before. And that's just kind of his mentality. I asked him, I go, were you kind of surprised they didn't give you the silent treatment? Like when you got back in the dugout? No, they didn't give him the silent treatment. He said, at first I didn't think about it, but then in hindsight, he goes, yeah, why didn't they give me the silent treatment? But yeah, he's carrying himself like a big leaguer, and I'm just stoked for him because it's been a tough year, and now it's not just necessarily like proving he belongs. Now it's just like, okay, I'm here. Now how can I help this team, and how can I turn this program or this organization around?
Yeah. So you've been really close to the action before games, after games, during games. Have you seen a difference now versus a couple of months ago, whether it's the energy, whether it's the camaraderie, or is it the same? They just haven't been winning games, or now they are starting to win games?
Well, it's tough to say just because I think the camaraderie has always been there, but just because they've been in close games. And Chuck, you were here last year and the years past, and you've talked about the difference that you've seen in this group compared to years past. I think they've always, towards the leading up to the All-Star break, I felt like they started to turn that corner and believe there's expectations that we can win. And I think just taking a step back, now it's like, we've proven that we can win, and we know it's there. It's it's right here. So it does change the chemistry in the clubhouse. I see guys, they have after party, like when they win, they have parties in the clubhouse, and, 𝗵𝗫 and Will, they're like, yeah, we're just going to keep that private. Like it's their thing and they deserve that. Right. But you could just tell, like, just the energy when I go in pregame and guys are, cutting up with each other, guys are interacting with each other. There's a lot more talking, there's a lot more communication. And I think people underestimate, we've talked about this, people underestimate the chemistry and what that does in a clubhouse. You don't necessarily have to have like the dudes in the league, right, that are making millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. Like if you have a good group and it works and you have that chemistry there, like that can be enough to win games.
So I had Mike Shirley on the previous podcast, scouting director for the White Sox, and he brought up the fact that next year obviously we know that they did not get the number one pick this year because they were in the lottery the year before, and they're a big market team, so they couldn't be in the lottery. So they're going to be in the lottery next year. There are 4 teams that are ineligible for the lottery next season. The Rockies, who will have the worst record in baseball. The Nationals are going to be there too. The Angels and the Cardinals, they're as well. But right now, the White Sox are going to have a 24% chance for the number one pick. So, interesting. So as you were trying to build this team for the future, there's a humongous piece potentially that is not even in the organization yet. And Mike Shirley is right now scouting who this person is going to be, and he's got a year, and the whole team has a year to figure out who it is. But I think the Sox, maybe the breaks are finally going the White Sox way.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. Did he talk about like what they're? I mean, when he spoke to us, they have really emphasized shortstops. And we saw that in this year's draft, and just kind of the way drafts are going. That's kind of the trend because they're naturally the more versatile player out there. And, if you draft a shortstop, you can move positions and things like that. But did he I haven't even looked ahead to next year's draft or like what it's looking like.
I haven't either. I usually, Brooke, I'll tell you, and everybody, I'll tell you when I start looking towards the draft day next year.
That's fair. I think you have a lot going on, Chuck. That's understandable.
Honestly, though, but I will say, if they have the number 1 or number 2 pick, okay, I will, because I remember when they had the Vaughn draft and the Madrigal draft. When you're in the top 5, it's a different story. So I will probably pay more attention this year. I literally started paying attention on draft day. So John Q Sportscaster here. Maybe I let you all down, but I was focusing more on this year's team as opposed to the future. But I will say, and we can talk about this. The one thing that really stood out to me from my conversation with Mike, and if you listened to the podcast, it was only about a 10 to 12 second soundbite, but he was just talking about the kind of players, or I actually asked him what it's. How did it go? So he was talking about all the players they had drafted, and I said to him, it seems like there's a certain kind of player that you guys are looking for. Yeah. And he said, well, Chuck, we want guys who want to play. And he referred to the previous era. And he said it in the nicest way. He goes, you saw what happened in the previous era. We do not want to do that again. We want guys who want to play, they want to win, and they're all in. Yeah. And I think as you are watching this team, whether they are veterans or rookies, or certainly young guys, like a Brooks Baldwin, wherever it might be, he's not a rookie, although he's almost a rookie. You're seeing guys who love the game, want to play, and are all in. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah. I think that hits the nail on the head. I think, and I even asked Mike about just character and how much, they're putting, how much they're emphasizing that when they're drafting. And, he goes, we're always emphasizing that, that's always something that we check off the list, but like, how much weight are you putting on character? Like how they treat their parents, how they treat those around them, talking to the coaches, because that kind of ties into guys that just want to play, guys that want to play for not themselves, but each other. And for their team. So, I'm totally bought into that. And Chuck, look at how many rookies we have on our team right now. We 10? Have 10. Yeah, I think so. Tonight, 9, 10.
It comes and goes with all the transactions they've been doing. Like Wickelman Gonzalez is here, now he's not. So it's somewhere between 9 and 12.
It's crazy, but just to see the guys and how they come together. And one thing I've also noticed, talking about camaraderie and how close these guys are, Chase and Colson, those guys are so close, and I've been watching them, and they're like buddies. They're attached at the hip, and they could potentially be like our middle infield duo of the future. You never know. Obviously Colson's been playing third, but I think there is importance, and Paul 𝗠liche talked about this in spring training. Is there is an importance of like keeping this group together for a certain amount of time before like pulling the trigger, calling them up, because you want to build that camaraderie. You want guys to learn how to win together, and it's been cool to see these young guys and just how they're interacting, and also how the veteran guys have kind of taken them under their wings too. Between Chase and Kyle, and, telling me they've really relied on Andrew Benintendi. He's been a great, voice in springboard to bounce ideas off of and to learn from. And Mike Tauchman too. I've noticed an energy shift in him, especially after he hit that home run in Pittsburgh. So it's a good group in that clubhouse.
Yeah, I think they were very careful and mindful of the veterans they brought in, right? These are, yes, do I want the White Sox to have a $190, $200 million payroll with better players? Yes, but they're not at that point yet. So when you are where the White Sox are, certainly were in the offseason, you needed to bring in guys on one-year deals who weren't going to be making a lot of money. Who were these guys you were going to bring in? Michael A. Taylor, Mike Tauchman, those sorts, Martin Perez, like there's really, yeah. By the way, he's in Tampa, which is so funny. What's that?
Yeah, which we're going to talk about this. He's aiming for an August 2nd rehab assignment, potentially. So, he's super confident that he's going to return. And I actually talked to Will about this yesterday, and just the progress that he's made is pretty remarkable, just given, what happened to him and his history and just everything he's been through. So for him to make his rehab assignment aiming for August 2nd, that's pretty big. He's been doing simulated innings. He's faced live hitters recently. So good news for Martin Perez. And I think he's at that point in his career where he's like, why not? Right. I've got to. And, they continue to talk about how his presence, he's always around those guys, and he has even more time now just to kind of be, a guide for this young pitching staff. And man, this pitching staff has been so good too. The bullpen, gosh, they've been, the unsung heroes, I feel like, of this team, especially on this road trip. So it's all coming together, Chuck.
It's all coming together. Here we go. All right. So Friday, the Cubs coming to the South Side, another edition of Friday Night All Access.
Yes.
Can you give us any kind of clue as to anything special happening on Friday, or do we want to wait until we have the green light to say what's coming?
I'll have to check with Chris Withers because, this is his baby. So I want to make sure I'm not revealing anything that should be a surprise. But we do have a few things cooking because it is the Crosstown Series. And so go big or go home, right? But yeah, so we have some things, maybe getting a tour of another area at Wright Field. We had some fun. Mike Vassell did a great job showing us the bullpen. So maybe doing something with that. I don't want to give away too much. Obviously, we'll be able to talk to the guys, but it's going to be.
You just gave me a good idea. You just gave me a good idea. So you've been doing tours of, you have done a tour of the bullpen, which was amazing. Great work. What if we gave a tour of the green room where 𝗁cie and I watched the games?
Oh, that would be good. Because we're always trying to figure out what would people want to see. The green room would be great. We would love to hear the commentary as well.
Yes. But I will say there ain't that much going on in the green room. We do not have the apartment-like conditions, atmosphere that the bullpen has. We just basically have
kind of. It's something. You got the good furniture in there. You got some drinks, non-alcoholic drinks, people.
Yes.
But you got like some snacks and stuff.
I don't know if there might be something there. I don't know. Just spitballing here with you. But you know what? I'm just thinking about this. Like the Cubs have been getting so much publicity, and rightfully so, because they're having a great season and Cubs fans are euphoric. If I know White Sox fans, and let's be honest, I know White Sox fans, they want the White Sox to stick it to the Cubs in the biggest way this weekend. So if it is to happen, and I'm not saying it's going to, because that Cubs team is really, really good and they got something going on. But if I am the White Sox players, if I am the coaching staff, I want to show up big time against the Cubs and win that series. What do you think?
Well, and I think in what perfect time, right? Where you're riding this momentum. I think earlier in the season, it was a big deal. Don't get me wrong. It's the Crosstown Series, but I think this is a completely different team now. And so I think there's White Sox fans, they're fired up and they're like, hey, maybe, you never know what happens in a rivalry game and in a rivalry series. So yeah, maybe this is our chance to disrupt their season and to make something of it. So I'm pumped. It's going to be a good series.
Yeah, there have been many, many times, many years where the White Sox are so much better than the Cubs. Who wins the series? The Cubs. The Cubs are so much better than the White Sox. Who wins the series? The White Sox. This seems like one of those series could be in play just because the Cubs are the better team, but the White Sox just have a chip on their shoulder like, oh, yeah, you're good? Well, we're going to show you how good, if not how good we are, how good we can be. And maybe they turn the tables on them on the south side.
And you kind of want to be in that spot, right? The expectations, nobody's are low. Nobody's really thinking twice about it. But it's like, no, this is our chance to like show everybody across the league that, hey, like the White Sox are the real deal. We're doing something here and it's real. So I think it's a good opportunity. And we play well at home. We play well, especially on Friday nights. So if we're playing well on the road, just think about, the turnout that we can have at Wright Field. Hopefully fans come out, which they will.
They will. And I think Adrian Hauser is starting on Friday. Like that's the guy you want to like set the tone. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So.
Well, Brooke, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. You're doing a great job. You're in Pittsburgh. You're in Tampa. You'll be coming home, and it's been fun. We are experiencing much better baseball, whether they win or lose. Actually, it's and that's the other thing that Sox fans keep saying to me. I mean, this is what I believe and I know, but the fact that so many are just coming up to me and they're just saying it's a much better watch. They're in almost every game. They have a chance to win so many more times. They're winning so many more series. It's night and day compared to last year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. When you watch the game, you're like, okay, this is a complete team. You have contributions 1 through 9 on both sides of the ball. So it's just now it's like, all right, let's keep the foot on the gas. Like, let's go. So we'll see what happens.
All right, safe travels back to Chicago. We'll see you Friday. The one and only Brooke Fletcher on the podcast. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Chuck. I'll see you when we get back to Chicago.
All right. 𝗵cie Carolson, take it away.
All right, Chuck, this edition of the White Sox Podcast is over.